Welcome back to my channel. The courtroom was already overflowing when she walked in, tall, composed, wrapped in a deep midnight blue coat, as if she had known the storm would break the moment she arrived. Cameras snapped toward her like metal turning to a magnet. A ripple of gasps rolled across the gallery. Even Christine's face stiffened. Because this wasn't just any witness. This was Shiloh, the woman who was never supposed to exist. The woman Kody had kept hidden for almost an entire year. The woman who just stepped into the room like a verdict wearing heels. Robin went rigid. Kody stared at his lap, and the judge lifted a single eyebrow as if to say, "Well, here we go." Then Shiloh opened her mouth and detonated the room with 3 words, "I'm his wife." Silence collapsed in on itself. She walked to the stand with an unhurried fury burning behind her eyes. She reached into her coat as calmly as someone retrieving a pen, yet everyone flinched. What she pulled out wasn't a weapon, but it still murdered the last shred of Kody's lies. A velvet box. Inside, a simple gold wedding band. Engraved, KB plus SB. Robin's chair scraped violently against the floor. Christine whispered to Janelle, "This is it. The truth. Finally." And Kody stared at the ring like he was seeing a ghost rise from his past. The judge cleared his throat. Cameras erupted. And in seconds, the Browns' darkest whisper wasn't a rumor anymore. It was evidence. And by the time this trial ends, someone in that room is going to lose everything. Outside, the Flagstaff morning air was strangely still, like the entire city was bracing for something unholy to crawl out of those stone walls. Reporters clustered on the steps like vultures sensing a fresh carcass. They whispered about betrayals, secret marriages, sealed bank accounts, and a man who had finally run out of shadows to hide behind. Inside, the courtroom was packed shoulder to shoulder. Former church members, neighbors, even some of Kody's older kids sat in the back, eyes sharp and unblinking. Robin stood at the plaintiff's table, stiff as stone, dressed head to toe in black like she was mourning a future that hadn't yet died. Kody sat beside her, unnaturally still, the smirk he once wore like armor now replaced with something close to fear. Mary walked in behind him without even acknowledging him. Christine and Janelle arrived moments later. No words, just a shared nod.
A silent alliance.
The bailiff called the court to order. Judge Harris walked in, steel-gray hair, zero tolerance for drama. He adjusted his glasses, skimmed the file, and looked up. "We've received a late witness," he said dryly. "I'm allowing her testimony." The room cracked like lightning. Robin's eyes shot wide. Kody flinched. The gallery whispered in terrified unison. Then the back door opened, and Shiloh walked in.
Tall, poised,
unbothered, like she was entering a battlefield she'd already won. Christine stopped breathing. Janelle's hands tightened. Robin's jaw trembled so badly her veil shook. Shiloh took the stand without looking at a single one of them. "State your name," the judge ordered. "And your relation to the parties." "My name," she said slowly, each syllable sharp as glass, "is Shiloh Brown. And I am Kody's wife." The room didn't erupt with noise. It erupted with movement. Phones rose. Heads snapped. People twisted in their seats trying to confirm what they just heard. Robin made a strangled sound. Mary looked away. Christine didn't blink. Shiloh continued, her voice steady. "Spiritual wife, yes. But I was also promised legal marriage." She opened the velvet box again. The ring glimmered beneath the lights. Robin laughed, short, hysterical, disbelieving. "That's a lie." But no one was listening. "When did this so-called marriage take place?" the judge asked. 9 months ago, Shiloh replied. "In a home Kody paid for. I have receipts, messages, photos, and a signed letter outlining all his promises." Kody rubbed his face, a nervous tick Christine recognized instantly. "Do you wish to respond?" the judge asked him. Kody didn't. He couldn't. Christine leaned toward Robin and whispered, "I warned you." Robin snapped her head toward her, fury blazing. Judge Harris tapped his pen twice. "This will not be a typical hearing." Robin slammed her hand on the desk. "She's lying." This is a setup. You're all working against me. Mrs. Brown, the judge warned coldly, you will keep decorum or you'll be removed. Robin froze, but her shoulders shook violently. Kody buried his face in his hands. But it was too late. Shiloh was here. She wasn't backing down. And she wasn't leaving until every secret was dragged into the light. If you think this was the climax, it wasn't. This was just the first crack in the dam. Because what Shiloh reveals next, it shatters the entire Brown legacy. The judge leaned forward again, voice steady, ready for the next bombshell. Let's begin with the timeline, he said. When did you first come to Flagstaff? Shiloh lifted her chin, the faintest nod carving through the tension-thick air. Her voice, cold enough to frost glass, carried clearly across the courtroom. 9 months ago, Your Honor.
No tremble. No hesitation.
Just an icy truth sliding into the center of the room like a blade. She continued, calm as snowfall. Kody secured a rental for me. 3 blocks from the house he shares with Robin. She didn't look at Robin when she said it, but the entire courtroom did. Dozens of heads swiveled in unison. It wasn't a ripple, it was a tidal wave. Kody shifted in his chair at last, clearing his throat. That's not how I said it, he muttered. Shiloh turned to him with serene precision, almost gentle, almost pitying. Then how did you say it, Kody? Her tone sharpened like a scalpel. That you wanted people to believe you still had options? That Robin was draining you emotionally? That Christine made you feel invisible and Mary made you feel guilty? A violent crack echoed. Robin's fist had slammed against the desk. Before the sound settled, the bailiff was already moving toward her. I never sucked you dry. Robin choked out, voice shrill with betrayal. Her eyes shone with tears, wild and unfocused. I guarded you. I was the only one who stayed. Judge Harris lifted a hand, just a hand, and the room obeyed like an army. That's enough. His voice was gravel and threat. Miss Shiloh, do you have proof of this alleged lease?
I do.
She slid a folder forward. No drama.
No flourish.
Just devastating simplicity. The bailiff carried it to the judge. He opened it and froze. Then his jaw ticked. The lease was signed under Robin's cousin's name, a woman who hadn't lived in Arizona for years. And the payments were a pulse of betrayal on paper. Christine leaned toward Janelle, whispering, Emergency fund? So now cheating counts as an emergency. Janelle didn't smile. Her eyes were locked on Robin, whose face had tightened into something sharp, almost monstrous. Because this wasn't jealousy anymore. This wasn't marital crisis. This was the legal collapse of everything the Brown family pretended was real. Judge Harris flipped another page. These are weekly payments, he said sharply. $1,200 up to $5,000. Mr. Brown, care to explain? Kody finally sat upright, voice scraping out. It was support, he said. She was starting her life in Flagstaff. She needed assistance? Robin's voice exploded into a shriek. What about me? What about your kids? The judge slammed the gavel. Order, or you will be removed. Robin fell back into her seat, shaking violently. Shiloh remained still. Still as stone. Still as truth. He said, she continued softly, that I was the only one who didn't make him feel like a failure. That I believed in his leadership, not his image. That's not true, Kody whispered. Shiloh's eyes glittered. Isn't it? You told me you wished Christine looked at you the way I did. That Robin's loyalty felt like possession. Robin lunged out of her chair, but the bailiff caught her mid-stride. You manipulative liar, she screamed. You're a nanny. You're nothing. Shiloh didn't even blink. And yet, she said softly, here I am. Judge Harris gestured sharply. Remove her. Robin was dragged out, kicking, her scream echoing down the hallway like a dying siren. Kody's face collapsed into his hands. He was unraveling in real time. Let the record reflect, the judge said dryly, that Mrs. Robin Brown has been removed for emotional disturbance. Proceed. Shiloh reached into her bag and laid out printed screenshots, each like a bullet on the table. These are the texts, she said calmly. Kody promising legal marriage, calling Robin an obstacle, affirming our relationship. Christine smirked bitterly. He always needed someone to blame. Janelle's eyes glistened, but she swallowed the tears back. The judge lingered on one page. One message was from the same weekend Kody had told Janelle he was on a spiritual retreat. The courtroom shifted. Whispers spread like wind through dry leaves. This wasn't infidelity. This was premeditation. The judge's voice cut through the noise. Miss Shiloh, anything else? Just then, for the first time, her voice cracked. Yes, she whispered. One more thing. She swallowed. I wasn't just living on his assistance. I was pregnant. A gasp thundered across the room. Kody flinched like he'd been shot. Christine covered her mouth. Janelle's voice trembled. Did she say pregnant? Shiloh nodded gently. He told me we had to keep the baby secret. He said the others would destroy us. Her voice trembled. When I lost the baby at 5 months, he told me to tell no one. But I kept the ultrasound. And the letters he wrote to the baby. Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. Christine whispered, shattered. You wrote letters? You couldn't even write to your own son after he died, but you wrote to a baby we never even knew? Kody's lips trembled. Christine, please. Judge Harris lifted a hand. Those letters will be filed. Shiloh slid the sealed envelope forward. Would you like to read them now? Not yet, the judge said softly. After recess. Court is in recess for 20 minutes. He banged the gavel, but nobody stood. Nobody moved. It was like grief itself had frozen the room. Shiloh stepped down from the stand, finally turning to Kody. Her voice was barely a whisper. You didn't love any of them anymore. You told me I was your beginning. They were your past. Kody stared at the floor. No defense.
No denial.
Nothing. She walked past Christine, past Janelle, and at the doorway turned back one last time. I didn't come here to hurt them, she said. I came because I finally understood. I was nothing but a lie you used to avoid facing the people you already broke. And then she walked out. Outside, reporters. Inside, ruins. And if the courtroom thought this testimony was the breaking point, they had no idea who was about to testify next. Someone no one expected. Someone ready to burn every remaining lie to ash. The moment Shiloh finished speaking, something shifted in the air, something thin and fragile, like the last layer of glass holding back a flood. For years, Kody had strutted across television screens as the symbol of spiritual leadership and family devotion. But right now, in this courtroom filled with echoing breaths and trembling shock, that symbol finally cracked. Because with her, Shiloh, Kody had found a place to breathe. A place where the lies didn't suffocate him because she was someone he didn't have to pretend in front of. And that single truth, the fact that he could breathe with someone else, was the match that set fire to everything. The courtroom wasn't just watching a confession. It was watching the collapse of a brand, the implosion of a man who had spent 2 decades painting himself as a martyr of spiritual polygamy and televised righteousness. And today, beneath the cameras and cold fluorescent lights, that paint peeled back, revealing not freedom, but rot. The judge tapped his pen once, sternly, breaking the heavy air. Let's make this perfectly clear, he said, voice like steel. Did you, or did you not, promise legal marriage to Miss Shiloh? Kody swallowed.
Hard.
Yes, he whispered. A gasp rippled across the courtroom. But only after I completed some financial transitions. I needed time. The judge narrowed his eyes. What transitions exactly? Kody hesitated. A long, telling silence. Rerouting some assets. Accounts that Robin and I shared access to. Robin jerked upright like she'd been stabbed. You told me that money was for property taxes. Her voice cracked like glass. Mrs. Brown, sit. The judge ordered firmly. Robin sat, barely, but her eyes were knives, slicing Kody from across the room. How much was transferred? The judge pressed. Kody closed his eyes. Approximately $47,000. The explosion was instant. Christine slammed her palm onto the table so hard the microphones shook. $47,000? She shrieked. You let our daughter drop out of college because we couldn't afford tuition, and you sent almost 50 grand to a woman you met 1 year ago? She needed help. Kody barked back. We all needed help. Christine roared. But we weren't shiny. We weren't new.
So, I guess we didn't count.
The judge lifted his hand, ending the eruption. Enough. The documents will speak for themselves. Bailiff, bring in the next witness. Everyone turned. Who else could possibly be left? Then the double doors swung open. And in walked Gwen Brown. The daughter who stayed silent too long. A hush fell so thick the room practically held its breath. Gwen's jaw was locked, her steps steady and deliberate. She didn't look left or right, only forward, only toward the stand. Christine gasped, hand flying to her mouth. Kody's face drained of color. Miss Gwen Brown, the judge said, do you swear to tell the truth? Yes, Your Honor. State your reason for testifying. Gwen inhaled. Sharp, broken, brave. I'm here. Gwen inhaled. Sharp, broken, brave. I'm here 'cause I've watched this family implode from the inside out, she began. And I stayed quiet. I stayed quiet when I saw favoritism. When I heard my mom crying alone. I stayed quiet when my dad said he needed distance from me for his own peace. Her voice wavered, but she pushed on. But now? I won't. Because I witnessed Shiloh. A ripple of shock shot through the room. I saw her in our driveway, Gwen continued, hugging him like they just got married. And I caught him lying to Robin about where he'd been. Robin's eyes darted to Kody, wide, wounded. You weren't crazy, Gwen said softly, staring directly at Robin. He lied to you too. Robin froze. Tears gathered, but she blinked them back. You saw her at our house? The judge asked.
Yes.
3 times. And the second time, I took photos. She lifted her phone. The bailiff grabbed it and handed it to the judge. A gasp went through the crowd as the images appeared on the monitor. Kody and Shiloh, arms wrapped tight, heads together, laughing, time-stamped, dated, undeniable. Christine closed her eyes. Janelle reached for her hand. This wasn't gossip anymore. This wasn't a family argument. This was proof, cold, cruel, photographic proof, of betrayal constructed carefully and carried out quietly. Gwen lifted her chin. When I confronted him, he said she was a counselor helping him with emotional issues. She scoffed. I wanted to believe him. I really did. Then she turned slowly to face Kody directly.
But now?
I think you were hiding. From your wives. From your kids. From yourself. Kody stared at the floor. I was trying to repair something, he whispered. No, Gwen cut sharply. You were replacing it. And we watched you do it. Every time you chose Robin. Every time you punished us for telling the truth. And now you've done it again. But this time? Her voice cracked. You embarrassed us. In front of everyone. Silence swallowed the courtroom. The judge finally nodded. Thank you, Miss Brown. You may step down. Gwen walked right past her father, without looking at him, without slowing, without mercy. And no one, not one soul, rose to defend Kody Brown. Not this time. The ring that ended it all just when the tension seemed unbearable. The judge turned to Shiloh again. You presented a wedding band earlier, he said. Do you have the full records? Yes, she replied, pulling another stack from her bag. Receipts. Custom engraving order. Pictures of him putting it on my finger. Robin gasped. He gave you a ring? He gave me a promise, Shiloh answered. He said I was the one who finally saw him. Not the man the world expected him to be, but the man he really was. Christine laughed bitterly. He said the same to me in '94. Janelle whispered, and in '98. Even the judge paused at that. We will recess until tomorrow, he announced at last. But let the record show, we are now evaluating the legitimacy of a spiritual union with legal consequences. His gavel cracked through the air. But no one moved. Not even the cameras. Because Shiloh wasn't finished. As she left, She dropped something near Kody's table. A ring box.
White. Small.
Deliberate. Kody froze. The judge leaned over. Robin covered her mouth. Christine turned her face away. Inside was a second ring, engraved with, "For our second child, when you're ready to tell them." The courtroom erupted. The final day, when the numbers spoke by the next morning, the room felt different.
Heavier.
Accusatory. Like the walls themselves were witnesses now. Judge Harris entered with no pleasantries. Sealed financial documents regarding mutual accounts between Kody Brown and Robin Brown have been received, he said. We will proceed. Robin stiffened. Kody wilted. Christine stared straight forward, unblinking. In the past 11 months, the judge read, 22 transfers totaling $47,600 were moved from the Brown Family LLC, a joint account belonging to Kody and Robin Brown, into a third-party account used to pay for Miss Shiloh Brown's rental home. Gasps detonated throughout the room. The account, the judge continued, was opened under the name Gloria Jessup, Robin's cousin. Robin's head snapped up. I didn't open that account. I didn't sign anything. We have handwriting analysis, Judge Harris replied coldly. Files were dropped in front of him. 2 analysts confirm, he said, a 92% handwriting match with Ms. Robin Brown. Robin staggered to her feet.
No.
I never. Kody, tell them I didn't do this. But Kody didn't look up. He stared straight ahead. Hands clasped. A child waiting for punishment. Christine leaned toward Janelle. She knew, she whispered. All along she knew. Janelle nodded. This also includes, the judge continued, an $18,000 withdrawal marked as retreat fund, spent on furniture, appliances, and clothing delivered directly to Miss Shiloh's residence. No one breathed. This wasn't spiritual betrayal. This was financial crime. Paper trail betrayal. Hands on the wallet betrayal. Mrs. Brown, the judge said at last, are you claiming your husband defrauded you using your name and signature? Robin paused, long, trembling. Yes, she whispered. That is my claim. The judge nodded once. Then we will subpoena Gloria Jessup. Christine smirked. Oh, she'll talk, she muttered. She'll definitely talk when she sees her name on a house she never lived in. The judge's expression had hardened into something carved out of granite. His patience, already thin, was now gone entirely. Let me be absolutely clear, Judge Harris said, his voice slicing through the courtroom like a blade. If this court finds willful financial fraud or marital fraud, criminal referrals will follow. The words hung in the air like smoke. Kody flinched so visibly that even the gallery gasped. Robin clutched her skirt with both fists, knuckles bone white, as her attorney leaned in, whispering furiously. But Robin was too far gone. The court of public opinion had already crushed her. And the silence, the cold, suffocating silence, felt heavier than any shouting match ever could. Judge Harris pivoted sharply toward the witness stand. Miss Christine Brown, step forward. Christine rose like a woman who had carried a decade of betrayal on her back and had finally decided to let it burn.
No trembling.
No fear. She walked with the calm ferocity of someone who had been right all along. She took her seat, raised her chin, and never, not once, looked away from Kody. You filed a statement alleging misconduct regarding shared property, the judge said. Explain. Christine inhaled slowly, as though steadying herself for a truth she had waited years to unleash. When I left Kody, she began, her voice steady and devastating, I took nothing but my personal belongings. Not the furniture, not the savings, not even the gifts I bought myself. I assumed foolishly that he would be honorable. The word honorable snapped like a whip. She continued. And then I saw the GoFundMe my daughter had to start to pay for school. And then I saw the pictures, the ring, the hidden rental house. And I realized he wasn't struggling. He wasn't broke. He was using our family's money to build a second life. She glared directly at him. A life with another woman. And he called us selfish for wanting to get out. Kody finally lifted his head, eyes wide, desperate. It wasn't like that, he protested. You broke the covenant. Christine leaned forward, eyes blazing.
No, Kody.
I left because you already had. The judge raised a hand. Miss Brown, continue. Oh, I'll continue, Christine said, almost smiling. For years we filed taxes jointly. I know the LLC breakdown. That money was for groceries, education, medical bills, not for secret houses, gold rings, and definitely not for another wife. Objection, Robin's lawyer murmured, voice weak. Sustained, the judge said, but even he sounded unconvinced. Christine wasn't done. He used us like batteries, she said, her voice ringing through the chamber. When we were drained, he just found new ones. Shiloh was the next outlet. The line hit the courtroom like a lightning strike. Gasps erupted everywhere. Even the court reporter, trained to stay blank, froze mid-sentence. Robin's face shattered. She looked like someone who had just watched her life collapse brick by brick. And then she snapped. She stood up, ignoring her attorney, ignoring courtroom protocol, ignoring every consequence. You think I wanted this? Robin screamed. You think I wanted to share him? I begged him to stop. I cried every night he didn't come home. The gallery froze. I knew something was wrong, Robin sobbed, but I thought it was you. All of you. I thought you poisoned him against me. She broke down completely. I kept the books. I handled the payments. I thought I was saving us. But he was saving her. Robin pointed, shaking, at Kody. You told me I was your last wife. You told me God chose me. How could you say that and build a life behind my back? Kody swallowed hard, eyes wet, voice barely more than a breath. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to say no. Every time I failed, she made me feel like I wasn't the failure. You were, Christine said calmly, and you still are. The judge struck the gavel, so hard it echoed like thunder. Order. The room fell into a tense, trembling silence. This court is adjourned until tomorrow, he announced. At that time, we will hear testimony from Miss Jessup and review remaining financial records. We will determine whether fraud or misrepresentation was committed by either spouse. He shot a final, icy glare at Kody and Robin before exiting. For a long moment, no one moved. Kody sat completely rigid, eyes blank, hands limp. Robin collapsed into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Christine rose, slow, measured, victorious, and walked out without looking back. Janelle followed close behind, steady and silent. The gallery buzzed in stunned whispers. But just when everyone thought the day couldn't possibly get more explosive, a murmur began spreading down the hallway like wildfire. Shiloh had petitioned for legal wife status. Right there. Right then. Papers in hand. Day 3. The insanity begins words spread so fast that by the time the gavel slammed, the entire courthouse knew the truth. Shiloh wasn't just claiming spiritual marriage. She was filing to be legally recognized as Kody's wife. Judge Harris entered with a jaw so tight it looked painful. This court has received new material overnight, he said sharply. A legal motion filed by Miss Shiloh Brown to declare herself the legal wife of Mr. Kody Brown based on intent to wed, cohabitation, shared property, and shared parenthood. Robin's pen dropped from her hands. Kody went gray. Christine muttered something vicious to Janelle. The gallery erupted. But the judge wasn't finished. We have also received the results of a paternity test requested earlier this week. Results will be disclosed today. Robin's hands trembled violently. Shiloh entered behind a powerful new attorney who approached the judge with complete confidence. These are notarized photographs, the attorney said. Mr. Brown and Miss Brown at the Flagstaff residence, with joint utilities, child-related expenses, a nursery, and ultrasound records from 2 years ago. Miss Shiloh Brown is pregnant again. Robin gasped so loudly the room flinched. You're lying, she choked. Shiloh didn't blink. I lost that baby, and Kody told me to bury the truth with it. Christine gasped. Janelle covered her mouth. Kody looked like he'd been shot. The judge opened the sealed envelope with deliberate care.
That's impossible,
The paternity
she
test
whispered.
verifies that
She
Mr.
can't,
Kody
she
Brown
can't.
is the biological
She is,
father of
the
Miss
attorney
Shiloh
said
Brown's
firmly.
child,
And
lost in
she
utero
has
at
medical
5
documentation
months.
to prove it.
A silence
And this
so
time, Your
deep
Honor,
fell
her
over the
voice
courtroom
sharpened.
that even
She
breathing
isn't
felt
hiding it for
intrusive.
anyone.
This
A
wasn't
second child.
speculation.
A second
This
life.
wasn't rumor.
A second
This
chance
was
forming
confirmation.
right in the center
A
of
secret
a collapsing
child.
empire.
A second life.
But the attorney
a
wasn't
second
done.
wife. Every supporter Kody had left silently lowered their heads. Robin snapped. She lunged to her feet, voice cracking like lightning. He told me it was over, she screamed. He told me she was just a counselor. A counselor? I was never a counselor, Shiloh replied coldly. I was the woman he whispered to when he said he couldn't breathe. I was the one he called his peace. Robin's scream tore through the courtroom. I gave up everything for you. She staggered toward Kody. My children. My name.
My money.
I fought your exes. I fought your enemies. I was the last woman standing. And this is what you give me. Her voice cracked under the weight of betrayal. A child with someone you met at a retreat? The courtroom dissolved into chaos. And this wasn't even the end. The tension in the courtroom had already reached a breaking point, but what happened next shattered whatever dignity remained. It began with a low, strangled sound from Kody Brown's side of the room, a half-mutter, half-groan, and Robin snapped toward him with a fury that didn't need volume to be deadly. Don't, Kody whispered. Don't, she exploded, her voice ripping through the marble silence. You don't get to say don't when you've planted an entire child in secret. Her voice cracked through the air so violently that even the court reporter jumped. Judge Harris slammed his gavel 3 times, each strike echoing like gunfire. Control yourselves, he barked, or I will empty this room. But Robin was too far gone to be controlled. Her grief, rage, humiliation, every emotion she had ever repressed, detonated at once. She whirled toward the judge. You can't let this happen, she cried. She's not his wife. She's a homewrecker, a stalker. She lied her way into his life, and now she wants to wear my crown. Gasps rippled through the gallery like a shockwave. Shiloh didn't flinch. She lifted her chin with an eerie calm. I never wore your crown, she said. He gave me a ring. You wore the denial. It hit Robin like a physical blow. She stumbled backward into her chair, her hands covering her face as tears spilled out unchecked. Christine watched her, fingers interlocked, her expression unreadable. Was it pity? Relief? Or just the quiet satisfaction of truth finally cutting through fantasy? Before anyone could breathe, Judge Harris cleared his throat and shuffled a stack of documents. This court recognizes a motion, he announced. A motion to contest Miss Shiloh Brown's legal standing on grounds of interference in a spiritual marriage. He looked directly at Robin. Are you filing this contest? Robin's attorney rose shakily. We are, Your Honor. Let it be recorded, the judge said. A spiritual fidelity argument has been entered. We will now hear evidence for or against. Shiloh's attorney, sharp, composed, merciless, rose like someone preparing to dismantle a kingdom. We'll begin, she said, with documented neglect, dishonesty, and emotional manipulation committed by Mrs. Robin Brown during her tenure as legal spouse, conduct that contradicts her claim of spiritual purity and exclusive devotion. The courtroom erupted. Shouting. Gasps. A roar of voices. Objection. Robin's attorney shouted, voice cracking. You can't bring her marriage into this. You open the door, Judge Harris replied. Proceed. And with that, Robin, long seen as the delicate victim, the misunderstood wife, the emotional center, found herself in the crosshairs. Shiloh's lawyer began her assault with methodical brutality. She projected screenshots onto the courtroom monitors, texts from Robin to Kody dripping with venom, comments mocking Christine's weight, messages belittling Janelle's parenting, instructions telling Kody to purge the family of toxic influence. Then came a screenshot of a deleted shared calendar event. Mrs. Brown removed scheduled visits, the attorney said, so Christine wouldn't know when Mr. Brown was coming. If she won't bow down to your power, One message read, "She doesn't deserve your attention." The attorney paused. "This isn't spiritual unity," she said. "This is possessiveness, isolation, emotional warfare." Robin folded into herself, her face buried in her arms. No tears now, just a silent collapsing. Kody stared forward, jaw clenched, looking as though he had finally realized the full cost of every choice he had made. Judge Harris lifted his glasses. "This court recognizes a formal review of Mrs. Robin Brown's conduct throughout her marriage," he declared. "This review will continue next session." Christine rose slowly. "Your Honor," she said softly, "may I have a closing statement?" The judge nodded. Christine turned, not to the judge, not to the gallery, but to Kody and Robin. Her voice shook, but her conviction never did. "I gave this man 18 years of my life," she began. "I gave him 6 children. I stood beside him through every broken promise, every lie, every moment he made me feel small. And even then, even after everything, I walked away peacefully." She paused, swallowing thick emotion as her eyes burned with a clarity she hadn't shown in years. "But what I've learned today, what I've seen this week," her voice cracked. "I'm embarrassed I ever called you my husband." Robin lifted her head slightly, brittle as glass. "And Robin," Christine whispered, "I hope someday you understand that the loyalty you gave him, he never once returned." The room fell utterly still. Even Judge Harris did not interrupt. Christine nodded to the court, turned, and walked away. No theatrics, no tears, just a woman finally unshackled. The gavel came down 3 times. Session adjourned. And somewhere in the hall, unseen but already spreading like wildfire, the truth continued to unravel. Because if you think this was the end, trust me, the next revelation will rewrite everything you thought you knew about Robin, Kody, and the collapse of their entire empire. The room fell utterly still. Even Judge Harris did not interrupt. Christine nodded to the court, turned, and walked away. No theatrics, no tears, just a woman finally unshackled. The gavel came down 3 times. Session adjourned. And somewhere in the hall, unseen but already spreading like wildfire, the truth continued to unravel. Because if you think this was the end, trust me, the next revelation will rewrite everything you thought you knew about Robin, Kody, and the collapse of their entire empire.
Court adjourned.
The gavel's echo was still fading when people began gathering their things, whispering, trembling, ready to flee the emotional earthquake the courtroom had just endured. But before anyone could take a full step toward the exit, Shiloh's attorney rose abruptly. "Your Honor," she said, voice cutting through the murmurs. "One final notice for the record." Judge Harris paused mid-movement, eyebrows drawing together in a frown. "What is it now?" The attorney didn't hesitate. "Miss Shiloh Brown is pregnant again." The sound that followed wasn't just gasping, it was a collective collapse.
People clutched their chests.
Someone dropped a purse. Reporters' pens froze in midair. Kody's head snapped up so violently his chair rattled. Robin went pale, ghostly pale, her mouth trembling. "That's impossible," she whispered. She can't. She is," the attorney said firmly. "And she has medical documentation to prove it. And this time, Your Honor," her voice sharpened, "she isn't hiding it for anyone. A second child. A second life. A second chance forming right in the center of a collapsing empire." But the attorney wasn't done. Whether Kody will acknowledge this child is irrelevant. What comes next is not about marriage. Not about paternity. It is about justice. Because the next witness is someone Robin Brown never believed would betray her. The room fell still, anticipatory, electric. The next day, a courtroom transformed. Courtrooms usually reset after a storm. This one didn't. The tension clung to the walls like smoke. It hovered over the judge's desk, settled on every chair, wound itself around every whispered conversation. And outside, the world had erupted. Every news channel, every gossip blog, every social platform. Shiloh pregnant again was now the headline of America's favorite disaster. And inside the courtroom, judgment had already begun, and Robin felt it heavy on her skin. She sat slumped forward, hair unbrushed and tangled, lips chapped from crying through the night. Her eyes were red-rimmed, swollen. In one trembling hand she held a balled-up tissue, in the other, a faded family portrait, one from better years, when the illusions still glittered. Kody didn't look at her. He hadn't said a word since the day before. The gap between them at the defense table felt like a canyon carved by lies, secrets, and the ghosts of decisions he wished he could erase. Christine entered with controlled, forceful steps, not calm, not furious, but resolved. Behind her, Janelle carried a rigid folder against her chest, eyes dark and storm-like. This was no ordinary hearing. Judge Harris struck the gavel. "We will now hear testimony pertaining to the motion filed against Mrs. Robin Brown," he said. "The witness has requested anonymity until they choose to reveal themselves." All heads turned toward the back of the courtroom. The double doors opened. A tall older woman entered, wearing a gray coat, hood partially shading her face. She walked slowly, with a slight limp, every step precise and deliberate. Christine's mouth fell open in disbelief. Janelle gasped aloud, hand flying to her chest. Robin froze, completely rigid, eyes widening with the terror of someone watching a nightmare crawl into daylight.
"No," Robin whispered. "No."
She wouldn't. She can't be here.
But she was.
The woman walked to the stand, lowered her hood, and locked eyes with Robin. "Hi, sweetheart," she said softly. "It's been a long time." The room erupted. Whispers, shock, stunned murmurs. Judge Harris raised a hand. "State your name for the record." "My name," she said clearly, "is Lillian Jessup, Robin's aunt." Silence. A silence, so deep it felt alive. Kody leaned forward, blinking hard as if trying to confirm reality. Christine leaned back, stunned into stillness. Robin's face drained of every remaining hint of color. Lillian took her place on the stand. "I raised Robin," she said. "From the time she was a girl. When her mother struggled with addiction, I stepped in. I know her patterns, her habits, her schemes. And I'm here to say this. The woman sitting over there is not a victim. She is a planner." A ripple of disbelief spread across the courtroom. Just when everyone thought they had seen the depth of Robin's secrets, an entire childhood chapter swung open. Lillian continued, voice steady. She came to understand pain early, not just how to feel it, but how to use it. She learned how adults reacted to tears, how sympathy worked. She defined herself through manipulation. She wasn't evil then, just starving for control. Robin shot to her feet, trembling. "You don't know me. You abandoned me. You left me alone." Lillian didn't raise her voice. "I shielded you," she whispered, "until you used that shield to lie. Sit down or you will be removed," the judge ordered. Robin sank back into her chair, shaking uncontrollably. When she met Kody, Lillian continued. She studied him, studied the wives. She learned what Christine valued, what Janelle sacrificed, what Mary feared. And she became perfectly whatever Kody thought he wanted. Robin shook her head violently. "That's not true," but her voice was barely a breath. "You built walls," Lillian said. "You smiled while cutting them out of his life. Slowly, deliberately." Kody looked like a man drowning, every sentence pushing him deeper underwater. Judge Harris asked for evidence. Lillian opened a folder. Inside were emails, journal entries, and a notarized affidavit signed by Gloria Jessup, the same cousin whose name had been used for the secret apartment lease. She told Gloria, Lillian said, that Kody needed church housing. She hid everything behind piety. Gasp spread. Robin's tears spilled, real this time, but they served only to reveal, not conceal. Her mascara streaked. Her hands trembled. Her composure disintegrated. She looked less like a victim and more like someone whose mask had been peeled away in front of the world. Public sympathy snapped like a fragile thread. No more myths. No more misunderstood saint. Robin Brown was standing at the center of the chessboard she built, and all her pieces were falling. "Stay seated," Lillian told her gently. Because what you do next will surprise even the judge. Robin swallowed hard. Sorry, she whispered, staring into Lillian's eyes. You were supposed to keep me safe. I did, Lillian said softly. Until you became the one people needed to be protected from. Robin turned desperately to the judge. This has nothing to do with this case, she gasped. This is old news. This is. Your credibility, Judge Harris said firmly, is exactly what's being tried here. And with that, the courtroom exhaled, because everyone knew this trial had just transformed into something far bigger than infidelity. This was the unraveling of Robin Brown herself. The courtroom had already been smoldering with tension, but when Lillian stepped forward again, holding a stack of weathered, yellowing envelopes bound by a trembling elastic, every eye sharpened. These weren't documents. These were wounds. Wounds that still bled. And so, Lillian said quietly, so is your intention. The bailiff carried the bundle toward the evidence table, but the moment Robin saw the handwriting, she crumpled. Those looping, girlish swirls, the sharp strokes on the capital R, she knew exactly what they were. Her letters. Letters she wrote in her 20s. Letters she never thought would see daylight again. Christine's face twisted, as if someone had plunged a knife between her ribs. Janelle's eyes shimmered with tears she tried to swipe away discreetly, but nothing about this moment was discreet. Nothing about it was survivable. Lillian continued, voice steady and sharpened by purpose. These, she said, laying the letters out like tarot cards of ruin, are Robin Brown's own words. Dreams she confessed to a friend long before she joined this family. Dreams of becoming the favorite wife. Dreams of having a husband who would banish all others. Dreams of being a queen in a castle with no rivals. Christine exhaled a sound that was neither gasp nor cry, something between disbelief and heartbreak. I thought she loved us, she whispered, voice cracking. I really thought she did. Lillian's expression softened, but her resolve did not.
You wanted to believe that, she said.
We all did. But she never saw you as equals. Only obstacles. The words detonated. Kody shot up from his seat as if he'd been burned. His voice came out rough, ragged. A hopeless mixture of rage and despair. Stop, he barked. His eyes were bloodshot, jaw trembling. Just stop. Christine rose with him, facing him not with anger. No, something worse. With truth. Why? She asked quietly. And he had no strength left to lie. Because it's the truth, he shouted, slamming his palm against the wooden table so hard the microphones trembled. Because I can't take it anymore. I loved her. I believed her. And now, his voice cracked into splinters. Now everything is gone. He turned to Robin, eyes hollow. Did you ever really love me, or did you just love the crown I gave you? Robin lifted her face slowly, tears streaming, mascara streaking like ink bleeding down old parchment. I loved what you allowed me to be, she whispered. I loved being selected. Kody closed his eyes and shook his head with a grief so heavy it bent his spine. Then you never loved me. Judge Harris slammed the gavel so hard the walls shuddered. That's enough.
Sit down.
Both of you. They obeyed like children caught fighting in a church pew. Lillian returned to her chair, but the silence she left behind was far louder than her testimony. Judge Harris turned toward Christine. You have filed a petition for damages? Christine stood with the posture of someone who had nothing left to fear. Yes, Your Honor. Based on fraud, emotional distress, and financial misconduct. She handed over documents. Years of therapy bills, financial statements riddled with missing funds, written accounts from their children. They suffered too, Christine said, voice trembling but strong. They watched their mother be discarded. They watched their father disappear. And now they finally see who he was truly protecting. The judge scanned the documents, each page adding another stone to the growing mountain of consequence. The motion is under review, he said. This court will now recess for 20 minutes. When we return, we will decide whether Robin Brown will be subject to a formal financial investigation. It was a bomb dropped with perfect judicial neutrality. Robin froze. Kody bowed his head into his hands like a condemned man whispering his final prayer. Christine and Janelle stood shoulder to shoulder, united in a way the family had never allowed them to be. Shiloh didn't move. And Lillian slipped out quietly, her mission complete, leaving the courtroom in a vacuum of unanswered questions. But the break was merely a pause before the earthquake, because someone else was about to step forward. And this time, it wasn't a wife. It wasn't an ex-wife. It wasn't even a former friend. It was a child. And they weren't here to defend Robin. They were here to reveal her. When the courtroom doors creaked open again after recess, the air was different. Electric, heavier, almost ceremonial. People shifted in their seats, whispers flickering like sparks. Christine and Janelle sat with new, unspoken resolve. Robin looked like she'd aged a decade. Kody sat hunched, hands clasped between his knees like a schoolboy about to hear his punishment. Judge Harris entered, and the room stood, not out of respect, but because fear demanded it. Before anyone could breathe, the judge spoke. "We have a voluntary request for testimony from another family member." He pushed up his glasses, eyes sweeping the courtroom. "Savannah Brown, please come forward." Gasps rippled like a wave. Janelle's youngest daughter rose from the back row, her hands trembling, but her spine straight as a steel beam. She was hardly 20, yet the grief in her eyes carried decades. Christine reached out as she passed, but Savannah didn't flinch. She didn't slow. She didn't look aside. She walked straight into the witness box and swore, in without hesitation. Then she did the unthinkable. She faced Kody. She faced Robin. And she spoke. "One afternoon, I arrived early. Kody and Robin were on a call with Shiloh. From the hallway, I overheard Kody's quiet words. 'Just be patient. Once the court business is done, I'll do it officially. Robin's coming around.'" Robin spun to face him, disbelief burning in her eyes. "You said that." Kody didn't answer. "You said you were finished with her," she yelled. Kody blinked slowly. "I was stalling," he muttered. "I didn't know what else to do."
"So you used me?" she wailed.
"Again, I used everyone," he replied, almost casually. Judge Harris tapped the gavel once. Silence hung, pregnant and heavy. But it was too late. Robin slumped in her seat, tears streaking down her face. Christine lowered herself slowly, trembling. Janelle buried her face in her hands. Shiloh turned away. "There's more," said Eliza. One day, she had overheard Robin practicing a phone call, trying to persuade a lawyer that Christine's departure had financially crippled the family. That's when the truth hit. This was more than betrayal. This was narrative engineering. An emotional coup disguised as loyalty. And then, the final revelation. Robin had offered Eliza $5,000 in cash to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Eliza refused. She produced an envelope, Robin's handwriting, her thank you note included. Silence swallowed the room. Christine stood, her voice soft but unwavering. "We were never perfect. We were imperfect.
Complex.
But we were truthful until you. You used the love we showed you as a shield and blew up everything we built. And when we demanded truth, we received silence. I forgive you. Not for you, for me. So I can leave this room and never carry your lies again." Judge Harris decreed that all financial motions would be under full investigation. The gavel fell one last time. The hearing ended, but nobody left. Robin remained, head down, scrolling through missed calls and unread messages. Kody emerged alone, a man encircled by his own deception, with no one to shield him. Outside, the courthouse steps resembled a war zone. Flashing cameras, shouting reporters, microphones shoved into faces. Christine strode purposefully, holding Savannah's wrist with a protective grip. Janelle flanked her, scanning the crowd like a lioness guarding her cub. Shiloh slipped away quietly, indifferent to the chaos. Kody walked alone, unshaven, thinner, muttering no comment. Meanwhile, Mary Brown sat alone in her cabin, watching everything unfold from her screen. She opened an old journal and began writing, Not for herself, but for the world. Her anonymous blog went live under the headline, "The Truth They Never Asked Me." I watched the man I loved lie to every woman who gave him her soul. I watched Robin play both sides. And I stayed silent, thinking keeping the family intact mattered more than being right. I was wrong. I'm done being silent. The post went viral within hours. Screenshots, texts, and old photos emerged, corroborating her claims. Christine reposted, "He said that to me too." Janelle commented, "Justice, not vengeance." Robin remained silent. Rumors of Robin's withdrawal turned out to be true. She had checked into a secluded wellness retreat in Oregon under a pseudonym. 2 days later, her lawyers called. Christine's eldest daughter, Mykelti, had filed a civil suit for emotional and educational damages, supported by affidavits from siblings. The lawsuit was step-by-step documented, monetary and precise. Kody's empire was unraveling. Former staff leaked emails showing money meant for shared property upgrades redirected to Shiloh's home, with Robin's approval. The Arizona State Tax Commission froze 2 LLCs tied to the Browns. IRS subpoenas followed. Public reaction was explosive. Fans flooded social media with personal stories of abuse and manipulation. Mary published another brief, cutting post. "I wasn't his first. I wasn't his favorite. I wasn't protected. I am done being in fear of the truth. And if he's watching, so should he be." The stage was no longer set, it was ablaze. Kody couldn't hide behind Robin, behind silence, or scripture. Truth emerged from every corner. A mysterious leak revealed email exchanges with a former spiritual guide, detailing how Kody and Robin had assigned emotional access to wives as a form of control.
Rede te exploded.
Hashtag spiritual gatekeeper trended. Experts dissected it publicly. Shiloh quietly posted a photo of her growing bump, captioned simply, "He said this time would be different. Our child would be the first he'd raise. Right now I see I was simply the next addition." Robin's supporters faltered. Kody's vanished. And the silence that remained was deafening. This isn't entertainment anymore. This is real. And if you've been watching closely, you know the story is far from over. Meanwhile, Shiloh's world crumbled. After a week of online bullying, ignored messages, and legal pressure, she went live in the dark of night, her apartment dimly lit. Sitting cross-legged, cradling a sonogram photo and tiny baby shoes, her voice trembled. "He said he needed me, that I gave him peace. But he never wanted peace. He wanted to be obeyed." Her candid confession went viral. 20 minutes of raw truth detailed how Kody had promised legal marriage, how Robin had posed as a neutral protector, and how Kody's tears were performative, a tool of control. The public absorbed it all, and Shiloh's lawyers filed her as co-petitioner in Mary's federal fraud suit, alleging emotional exploitation, spiritual deception, and marital misrepresentation. Robin receded further into isolation. Calls unanswered. Legal probes launched. Kody tried to sever his liability from hers in court. The judge ruled otherwise. "You built this together. You will answer for it together." Applause rippled through the courtroom. Even devoted Brown fans now saw the truth. This wasn't misunderstanding. It was manipulation, a spiritual colonization cloaked in covenant. Mary revealed her trump card, a 2015 handwritten letter from Kody detailing a spiritual exit strategy for any wife who threatened the harmony of the house. If she cannot submit in faith, she must be displaced in grace. Her resources can be realigned, her access paused, her voice filtered. The court recognized its explosive nature. Legal analysts debated precedent. Church leaders disavowed. Former show producers apologized publicly. Fans reeled. Shiloh appeared before the media, her words chilling. "We thought we were building faith. All we built was a fortress around a narcissist." Robin Brown, once the emblem of loyalty, was now synonymous with control. But there was one more voice yet unheard, Kody's mother, Janelle Brown. From an assisted living center in Wyoming, she submitted a handwritten letter. "I am the mother of the man who built a kingdom out of women's faith and tore it apart one lie at a time." Her testimony detailed decades of observation, Kody's manipulations, his obsession with performance, Robin's cold ambition, and the systematic emotional erosion of those around him. Courtroom members wept openly as the letter was read aloud. And Robin vanished. Phones disconnected. Emails bounced. Legal counsel withdrawn. 2 days earlier, security footage caught her boarding a flight to Lisbon, Portugal, under a maiden name with no return ticket. The court issued a bench warrant. International headlines screamed, "Robin Brown flees amid federal fraud investigation." The vacuum left by her disappearance revealed another secret. Leah, Kody's estranged sister, decades removed from the empire, walked into court. Dark coat, trembling hands, battered Bible. She delivered a testimony that rattled the family tree. Kody had offered her a spiritual wife role at age 17, years before cameras, books, or fame. The psychological toll haunted her adulthood. Federal prosecutors expanded the case to include possible spiritual abuse, grooming, and coercion. Christine waited outside, gripping her daughter Gwen's hand. "We didn't flee a marriage. We fled a system of beliefs that bound us to him." Documentaries accelerated. Media cycles shifted. The Brown name, once a symbol of alternative love, now represented control, manipulation, and spiritual deception. Mary spoke again. "I no longer recognize the covenant we lived by. It was not faith. It was terror." Even TLC removed all reruns of the show. Fans analyzed every glance, every utterance, every slip of a mask. Robin's whispered confession, "I just want to feel safe," took on a chilling new meaning. Christine's tight smiles in confessionals? Hollow. Kody's charm? Calculated. And somewhere, the matriarch, General Brown, had quietly passed. Her final public words echoed, "Truth will outlive us all." The candlelight vigils outside the Arizona courthouse bore witness to the collective awakening. Signs read, "SisterWives deserved better." The story was no longer entertainment. It was justice, exposure, and the long overdue unraveling of a system built on control. And Session 13? That promised to shake the Brown legacy to its core. Faith without fear. Christine lit the first candle. Mary lit the last. Shiloh stood in between, her belly carrying a future Kody would never control. In that moment, it didn't matter who was last, who was popular, who was legal. They were survivors. Together, they were witnesses. Warriors.
Done.
But the story wasn't over. An anonymous insider from the original production team had handed over a hard drive, erased scenes, raw audio, unedited confessionals the world was never meant to see. The court allowed it. Session 14 had just begun. The courtroom projector flickered to life. This wasn't glossy TLC anymore. It was raw, uncut, and damning. Footage labeled "Do Not Air," "Outtake," "Unapproved" flashed across the screen. The judge confirmed metadata and production contracts. This was evidence, not entertainment. The first clip, Robin, behind a soundstage wall, wiping fake tears after a confessional where she'd cried, "I just want unity." Moments later, she rolled her eyes, giggled, and whispered to a producer, "How's that for tears? Another take?" Gasps erupted. Christine gripped the bench. Kody's defense froze. Clip after clip. Mary excluded from trips.
Tristines moments raduna.
Janelle made to look irrational. Kody's tantrums cut. They weren't just manipulated, they were engineered. A 2015 recording revealed a private meeting. Robin suggested creating betrayal for ratings. A producer said, "We can't fake that." Robin, "Just roll the camera. Push her to the breaking point." Strategy, not documentary. Pain as leverage. Even more damning, Kody with a producer, boasting, "They signed up for this covenant. Heat too much? They can leave the kitchen, but not the audience." Then came the binder. Christine's 450-page record, financial logs, spiritual journaling, every dime Robin spent. She pressured Kody to assign her legal rights, not taxes, but sole access to TLC appearance fees. She instructed him on couch scenes to isolate Mary and Janelle. This wasn't a family. It was a pyramid of guilt, tears, and profit. TikTok erupted. Every manipulation detailed, every contract, every handwritten note exposed. Even Robin's lawyer had warned her. Manipulating family for financial gain may be prosecutable fraud. She ignored it. Now the court called it conscious evasion. Session 15. Kody on the stand.
No cameras. No teatrix.
Just a man weighed by evidence. Prosecutor. You believe you are spiritually married to Shiloh? Kody. I believed I was. Prosecutor. Did you ever promise her a legal marriage? Kody. I may have implied yes or no yes. Every lie, every manipulation, every dollar misused, laid bare. Emails showed Kody recruiting Shiloh months before filming, framing wives as assets, planning a personal spiritual empire for profit. Courtroom silence. Shiloh, Christine, Mary, all realized the truth. Session 16. Aaron Cartwright, former assistant producer, revealed how reality TV had been constructed. Contracts paid for emotional crises. Robin's tears were lucrative. Christine, Mary, and Janelle's appearances reduced if they refused participation. Even the spiritual doctrine was fabricated. TLC manipulated viewers' faith for profit. Session 17. Judge Kessler ruled Kody's covenant-based model a fraudulent, coercive enterprise. Assets frozen. Contracts nullified. Wives owed him nothing. Faith is not a cage. The judge reminded those still trapped. Christine took the microphone. No notes.
No script.
Her truth. Every violation, every manipulation, every scar she bore. She stripped the blueprint of coercion line by line. You called doubt disobedience, fatigue weakness, silence obedience. But I am walking toward real faith, the kind that loves without conditions and leads without fear. Shiloh wept. Mary smiled. Aaron watched, relieved. Social media erupted. Hashtag faith not cage, hashtag Kody exposed trended worldwide. And Robin? She stepped forward, not as the villain, not as the compliant wife, but as the last one standing, revealing her own captivity within Kody's empire. I was his echo chamber, his favorite, his shield. I thought it was blessing. It was survival. She read Kody's private journal. He admitted using her tears as walls to prop up his empire, and his private diaries confirmed it. For the first time, the wives walked out not as characters, not as manipulated participants, but as free individuals. Kody stepped into shadows.
No prophet. No patriarch.
Just a man undone by his own design. Session 18 would bring Christine's victim impact statement. Session 19. Robin's truth. Each voice unfiltered and censored. Unforgiving. The movement had begun. Faith without fear.